Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and I'm going to do the May 17th Spiritual Principle Day in a meditation. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're excited about the day in front of you. It's going to be a beautiful day. The title of the meditation for May 17th, Love for Unity's Sake. Unity depends on our willingness to keep coming from love, even when that seems like the hardest thing to do. Now, that comes from the Guiding Principles book, Tradition 2, Spiritual Principles. Why is coming from love so difficult sometimes? Practicing the principle of unity in all our affairs and coming from a place of love while doing it so often seems to require superhuman powers. Sometimes coming from love is hard because a friend has truly wronged us or hurt someone else we love. Or maybe it's the member who stole money from the group or the one who gossips constantly. Or a newcomer from a treatment program uses language from another fellowship. Or at dinner after the meeting, that guy is chewing with his mouth open again. At other times, coming from love is a challenge because we know we are right. Yet our group conscience runs counter to this indisputable fact. There's no way in heck that our collective higher power is being expressed through that ridiculous decision. We want to throw a chair across the room or break down in tears of frustration. Clearly, coming from love may not be our first reaction to most any distraction. The good news is that we're teachable. We can learn to empathize with others, to trust group conscience, and to let go of our desires to control everyone and everything. The more we're able to absorb this lesson and practice unconditional love, the more relief we experience from our anger and self-righteousness, and self-righteousness. Tradition 2 reminds us that the group's conscience is expressed through a loving higher power. To support this ideal, we heard members say, we are acting out of either love or fear. Maybe it's not always quite that simple, but as we grow, we come to understand how critical unity is to our own recovery. And we become willing to examine whether a chosen action squares with spiritual principles. Even at an emotional breaking point, it is possible to ask myself, am I coming from a place of love? Today, I will take a moment to breathe before opening my mouth, clicking send, or throwing a chair. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today. Please and thank you. Interesting meditation, huh? Love for unity's sake. It's helping us to look at tradition too. It's helping us to figure out if we're coming from the place of love when we get into conflict, when we get into situations where we're like, why are we doing this again? How has everyone voted to have this particular action? What does this have to do with carrying the message to the addict that still suffers, which is our primary purpose? How is this the decision that God has allowed everyone to come to? Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Sometimes it's not something that is really God's will, right? Sometimes it's just a matter of groupthink. And groupthink is basically where one or two people in the group have all the power and have all the say. And then everyone else, because they're not interested in really trying to challenge that individual, they don't want to be in conflict, they agree or they send their vote in the direction of what the person wants. It's kind of selfish, right? Because it's basically saying this person is the group conscience and they make the decisions. And instead of me being willing to challenge them, I'm gonna go along with the flow because they'll treat me differently for a year, maybe, or months, or the next few meetings, they'll be angry. And I don't want to deal with that attitude. Or I'm in a clique and I don't want to have people push me away just because I went against their vote, right? Their desire to throw a certain event a certain way. And I know it's not carrying the message. I know it's just a dressed up garbage can type event, right? It's not interested in any kind of way of making sure that the newcomer is given a message of recovery, right? You may actually feel that way. I felt that way, right? But I'm just one vote. And even if groupthink is what's going on, right? I'm just one vote. And we've prayed, right? We've prayed that the God of our understanding, the group conscience, would be one guided by a principle of love. We've prayed that. And so when we run into conflict with that, we also individually need to make sure that we're coming from a place of love. We're coming from a place that will um, make unity obvious, a place that will make the spirit of recovery obvious. It's my job to do that. It's not my job to make sure everyone else does that. And that's the hard part, especially when we're talking about a character defect of maybe fear operating as a shortcoming of being self-control or controlling others, right? And so when that happens, we need to pause. I like this. We can take a moment to breathe before we open our mouth and click send, or throw a chair, or throw a mean comment, or throw a bad attitude. We can pause and we can ask ourselves, am I, not them, am I coming from a place of love when I speak up? And if we're not, we can center that. We can center our opinion. We can readjust the way that we're going to say something. We don't have to fly off the handle. We don't have to do that today. We're free to apply spiritual principles in all of our affairs, even in group settings like this. My name is Maddie Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. I hope that you take this meditation and you apply it and have a beautiful day with it. I intend to. Talk to you tomorrow.